So this is Jan Brett. She is an author and an illustrator, which I think is super cool because, you're obviously immensely talented if you can, not only write a book but illustrate it as well. So I think that's super cool. But she has written and illustrated several famous books such as The Mitten, Gingerbread Baby, and The Hat. She has a very distinct style in her illustrations, as you can see here. And it's funny because I originally didn't know who Jan Brett was, so when we got assigned our author in class, I was like, oh, Jan Brett, who the heck is this? But then I started looking over her books, and I started reading them, and started looking at her illustrations, and I was like, oh, I recognize these. And, I remember reading her books growing up when I was younger, and obviously they had an impact on me in some way because I can still, recall reading them when I was younger, So she was born in December of 1949, which makes her 67 today. And while she's definitely old, she's still been cranking out, some good books in the past couple years. And then overall, she's been a very successful author. She's sold 40 million copies of all her books. And that's not even including like the electronic versions, since we're all about like the Kindles and everything today, and the electronic versions of text and everything like that. And then one thing I thought was interesting is like a lot of her books tend to deal with like Christmas, or like they're set like during the winter time. And I don't know if this is because she's born in December, so she has like a special soft spot for that time of the year or not. But it's just something that I thought was interesting and important to note. Her love for writing and especially drawing came at like a very young age for her while she was in kindergarten. This is like when she kind of realized that she wanted to grow up and be a writer, which I think is really cool that she was that young when she realized that. And then she says that she aims to make her stories and illustrations as authentic as possible. And to get that authenticity, her and her husband travel like extensively around the world, from places like Scandinavia to Africa, in order for her to get, inspiration for her books, and which I think is super cool and super, hashtag couple goals and everything like that. Just kidding. But she's been quoted saying that from cave paintings to Norwegian sleighs to Japanese gardens, I studied the traditions of many countries I visit and use them as a starting point for my children's books. And I just think this is like a really cool aspect about Jan Brett, because she kind of brings the world to kids that will probably never see these parts of the world. She brings it to kids like through her stories, and I think that's like a really unique aspect about her, because not a lot of authors like actually travel around the world to get inspiration for their books. And I think she serves like a really important and vital role for when she does that for kids everywhere that read her stories. Her books are probably best known for her like colorful and like very detailed depictions of like a wide variety of animals and human cultures from around the world. Jan Brett is definitely, I would say, an animal lover, and this can be seen when you read her stories. She'll oftentimes like use them to tell and like progress the story rather than her just like narrating what's going on in the story. I think a big part of what makes her books like so much fun to read and like so like entertaining is the fact that she is just such a good illustrator. And a lot of times when I was reading through her books, I found myself like looking at her illustrations quite a bit, because they're definitely eye-catching, because they're just so detailed and they're just so good, and they're not like other illustrations that you see in other picture books for kids. And she also has the added bonus of being a good writer as well. And her stories, it's not just her illustrations, her stories are very good as well. And she honestly has the best of both worlds. So that basically sums up Jan Brett. She's a writer that, when it comes to details, she doesn't ignore any of them. When it comes to her writing and her illustrations, her use of detail pulls you in, and it makes you want to keep reading until the end of the book, and then hopefully at the end you want to pick up another one of her books because they're just so good. You can tell that like a lot of hard work goes into her stories, which I think is cool, because she's a children's author for like all the right reasons, which the main one is to make books that children enjoy reading and makes them want to read. So if you ever come across like a Jan Brett book, don't hesitate to pick it up and read it, because they're very good, and you'll definitely enjoy it for sure.